Well, now it's time for another one. We're continuing on with the spiritual warfare. Well, like I said, we're in Ephesians 6. Tonight, we're probably going to just talk about verse 4 because there's a lot of meat in there. Ephesians 6 and 4 says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Like I said, that's a whole lot in there. I want to talk about fathers. We're not talking gender specific. Father, relates to God Himself, the Father, the Creator. The Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost. But, Father in the Bible, it also talks about our ancestors, those of wisdom, the seasoned people. It's not, like I said, it's not gender specific. So a single mom or a female who's raising her family by herself can't say, oh, well, this don't pertain to me. A father means it's the structure, it's the authority of the home. So whoever is the head of the home. Generally, we got a lot of women that's raising children by themselves. So they would be considered father in this instance. So like I said, when we talk about the Bible, we really can't talk about gender specific because the Word of God speaks to the spirit. And I told y'all before that we are spirit beings. We're not fleshly beings. So there's no gender in the spirit. It's just spirit. God is not a gender specific being. He is spirit. He is truth. Another way the father is used in the Bible is like, it's just a title of respect. The head of the home usually is attributed to the husband. A husband is the one who bands the house. That's what the husband means. He's the one, husband is the individual that keeps the house together, that the structure, the foundation that holds everything together. Generally in the Bible, it's a he. I know we have other beings or fleshly that want to do other things that we know in the Bible is abomination to God. But the husband in God's design is the male figure, the male species that holds everything together. He's the provider. He's the provision for the home. Like I said, we got some single women out here that's taking care of their home. So there are women that have to be the provision, have to be the provider of their home. So it is, like I said, a title of respect. It's the one who rules the house, the one who makes the rules, who makes the laws of the home. Another term that the Bible uses father as is like the author or the beginning of something. The originator, the person that started, the founder of something. So, like I said, it's not gender specific. We already talked about it being a title for God. The one who represents the father in the home is the one who should represent God. Have the characteristics of God. What he stands for, what he represents. God is love. He's a provider. Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi. This individual should have the same characteristics and mannerisms as every name of our Father. Jehovah Rapha, the protector, the healer. That's who this individual should represent. But like I said, we have single women, and even in that, they have to represent that toward their children until God sends the one that, can take up that slack to be the author or the father. like I said, Ephesians 6:4 says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath." So this is any authority figure, any parent, any official, or maybe uncle, anybody in the family that you don't provoke your children to wrath. That means you don't provoke your children to be angry. You don't treat them in the way that they grow up angry. Generally, when people do that, that's broken people. Like I said, it's not gender specific, so I'm not going to just be hitting on the men, because women do it too. It's men and women who are broken. It's brokenness. They are broken on the inside. Hurt people hurt people. So out of their brokenness, they handle other people, and it causes them to wrath. As a therapist intern, I deal with a lot of that. I had a family earlier today that the parents were just so angry, and they were just so broken. And it wasn't so much out of their marriage, it was out of their childhood. We got to deal with things in our childhood. We got to heal the hurts and pains of our childhood before we step off into another relationship and bring that into that relationship and traumatize that individual or bleed on that individual. We got to learn to take time for ourselves and heal our wounds before we just go off into another relationship. That is why a lot of, the fathers provoke their children, because it is not intentional for the most part. There are some people that, it is intentional. Misery loves company. We have parents that are jealous of their children, and they do things to their children that they shouldn't do. But for, the most part, I want to say subconsciously, parents don't really want to hurt their children. They don't want to provoke them to wrath, because they're just dealing with stuff on the inside of them that came out of their childhood. Sexual abuse, I talked about that. There's alcoholism. There's all kind of, people are self-medicating, and rather than getting themselves fixed, healed, or I don't want to say fixed, and rather than dealing with their emotions and dealing with their feelings and dealing with the traumas that they've been through, they want to go drugs, alcohol, sex. They just want to do things that, to self-medicate the pain, which means they tear their own body up. We got people that cut their skin. Some people graduate from cutting to tattooing, because, the pain is the same. But it's, I guess we'll say a little healthier environment, but, ink poisoning and can't be too healthy either. But, like I say, provoking our children to wrath comes from something that's deep set on the inside of us that's not right, that's not well, that is having, there's an anger on the inside of us. So we coming off with attitudes at our children, and our children absorb, our energy, and it changes their personality, changes their psyche, because they have to learn to deal with our anger. Narcissism, I talk about that all the time, because that is the extreme, and it gives you a picture. A child who has dealt with narcissistic parents learn how to survive different than a regular child. A narcissistic person is always coming at that child. So that child has to live a life where they're always, got to watch their back. They walk on eggshells, because this parent is always coming at them. They can't do right in the eyes of this parent. They can't please this parent, because this parent can't please themselves. You think 1 minute you did it perfect, but at the slight notion just because that parent may be jealous of the fact that you got it right, or maybe they didn't think that you could do it that well, or maybe they're just feeling some type of way on the inside of them. They don't like it, and they go off and they rant. They go on a rant and rave, and and make you feel this little or whatever. But people that yell and scream have issues on the inside of them, and a lot of women sit there and take that, and that gives low self-esteem. And for a lot of years I dealt with a lot of that, until one day you just get tired. You just don't want to listen to it no more, and you get quiet. And when you get quiet, you hold your power. And because you realize that damned if you do, damned if you don't, you realize that nothing you do is going to satisfy this individual, because this individual is not going to be satisfied. They can't satisfy themselves. They don't know who they are, because in order to be satisfied with themselves, they need to know who they are. They need to know what satisfies them. There's a lot of people that's just living in survival mode, go by the wayside, trying to figure out who they are. That's not gender specific either. There are a lot of people in search of themselves. And until they find themselves, they're not going to know what makes them happy anyway. So we got these parents, that are provoking their children to anger because they're not fixed on the inside of themselves. They're broken. Ladies, and I want to say, like I said, it's not gender specific, but we got to stop letting men sit there and holler and scream and mess up our self-esteem, or we just sit there and take that and we receive that, and it just messes on the inside of us. I was talking to a young lady who she was just numb, emotionally unavailable, just numb. She hadn't felt in a long time, because she'd been around a situation where people was always taken from her. We don't need to be like that. When you get emotionally unavailable, your cup is empty, you're drained, and you can't give to anybody anything that you don't have. You expect in love, but love has to be received. And if we don't know how to receive, love could be standing right there in front of us, and we will never experience it, because we don't know how to open up and receive. We're so emotionally unavailable. And when we're emotionally unavailable, we can't give that love and that nurture to our children. And that provokes them to wrath, because they're looking for that bonding there, with their mother or their father. And because they don't have it, because they can't find it, they go out and look for it in other places. They find themselves in situations, getting in juvie, getting in trouble, because they looking for that attention. They looking to fill that void. And the only thing that's going to fill that void is the bonding of their parents. That love, that nurture that was designed by God in the household, in the family. Just like he has a place on the inside of us that's designed just specifically for him. And when we don't have him, we try to put all these tangible items in our body. We start drinking, we start smoking, we doing drugs, we doing everything in our power to fill our spirit with these tangible things, to get some type of joy or some type of solace or some type of comfort. But the only thing that's going to fill that void in that spot is just the Spirit of God. A lot of us, we run and we keep running, and we don't want to deal with the Spirit of God. We don't want to walk in spirit and in truth. And while we're not walking in spirit and in truth, we're constantly filling this void, and we constantly gathering up addictions and pouring things into ourselves that, like I said before, is only can be filled with the Spirit of God. Some of us think we have joy. We walk around in a space and we think it's joy. But if it was joy, Joy maketh rich and has no sorrow. But if it was joy, we wouldn't have to be trying to fill our spirit with tangible items. You know, joy comes from the inside, yes, but it should permeate and manage and control our flesh to where joy doesn't lead us in compromising positions. It doesn't lead us in areas or ways that seems right to a man or a woman, but is against God. Joy leads us to the fullness of God. It doesn't lead us to party all the time or fulfill the flesh. Joy leads us to be full in spirit and in truth. So, like I say, we fill our vessels full of all these tangible things, these addictions, things of the world, the prince of the air. The enemy gives us these ideas, and while we trying to self-medicate and take care of our own stuff instead of go through the process and heal, while we're doing these things, we're taking stuff out on our children. Our children are receiving this stuff because that's all they know to do. They're absorbing, they're learning, they're like sponges until something happens and breaks their heart, and they just shut down. They disconnect. Normally about teenagers, they start becoming rebellion. They don't want nothing to do with you and all that kind of stuff because they've had enough. They get angry, and then they go out there, and then they normally start becoming defiant and doing what they want to do and finding themselves in trouble because they would rather be in trouble than be in the household experiencing the pain that they're experiencing, that you're bleeding on them, that you're leaking on them. So, like I say, it's a lot in that scripture. Provoking our children not to become angry. And the only way we can do that is to walk in love. We gotta give them love. And the only way we can give them love is we gotta know what love is and have love in our own heart. Because like I say, you can't give what you don't have. If your cup is empty, how you gonna give me a glass of water? You gotta first fill your cup in order to recognize what it is. So, bringing them up in the nurture and the admonition of the Lord. You got to have that for yourself. You should have been nurtured and be walking in the admonition of the Lord yourself in order to give that to your children. If you're not doing that, and you can't give it to your children, I'm going to keep saying, you cannot give what you don't have. So if you yourself is not walking in the admonition of the Lord, how are you going to lead your children to walk in that same manner? We normally have households that's, like I said, narcissistic. They're controlling. Generally men, we got single women that, they're controlling too because they don't know how to discipline really. God didn't really place that in them. The man is supposed to be the head. But, we improvise because, we were made in the image of God just like male and female. And the yelling and the screaming and all of that, that gets on the kids' nerves. And, I got tired of it. And that's when I began to start shutting down, and I'm just not gonna put up with anybody yelling and screaming at me because number one, that's a communication deficit that they have. If they don't have enough respect to talk to me like a human being, and enough respect to talk to me like I'm worth something, like I'm somebody, I'm not a piece of animal, piece of meat or anything, I don't deal with that. You know, I may let it get away once or twice, but like I say, that hits at the self-esteem. And I think highly more of myself than to sit there and allow somebody to constantly yell and scream or to control me and what I want to do. I'm 54 years old and I'm not going to be controlled by anybody. I will politely just walk away because at the end of the day, I'm the one that's got to get in that box. And if I haven't done any and everything that I wanted to do in this lifetime, number one, fulfill the purpose that God has me called to fulfill. If I don't do it, it ain't nobody's fault and ain't on nobody's head but mine. So rather than live my life vicariously through somebody else or be oppressed and in bondage by somebody else, I would just walk away and let it hit different because I don't have that many years left and I'm not going to spend it fighting and screaming with somebody else. We have individuals with narcissistic tendencies where they're not narcissists, but it's like they playing, they trouble in the water. You know, they try to see how far they can control you or how far they can take you. I don't deal with that either. I just get quiet because I've learned that all of that messes with your psyche. If you allow somebody to just constantly control you and drag you and use you through the mud, it ain't nobody's fault but yours if you still down in the mud, if you still down being used. We all have the power of choice. We all can pick up and walk away. There's no excuse for it. So we don't need to take that and go beat our children with it. We don't need to take that and treat our children that way. Control our children. I know a parent that is trying to control her daughter to sit there and live with her, pay all her bills, or help her pay the bills because she don't want to be lonely by herself. The lifestyle she chose for herself. That girl can live and go live her life the way she want to live. She grown now. She wasn't created to sit there and take care of her mama for the rest of her life. And she got her own children too. She don't need to sit there and just live with that woman. That woman has opportunity to get her own self together, fix her own self up, maybe get a husband, I don't know. But we can't make our children be our living caretakers or be our spiritual husbands or wives, somebody, our companion for the rest of our life, just to appease and console us. That's provoking them to wrath too. We got to raise our children up so that they can be successful in whatever they want to do. We can't force them to stay around just because we need somebody to help us change our diapers and everything. And we, lived our life in such a way to where we can't even take care of ourselves, so we want them to take care of us. That's not right. Maybe that ain't what God called them to do. Maybe that's a hindrance to them. Maybe God called them to something else. Like I say, we supposed to give them back over to God, not hinder them and use them as our slaves. That's not it. That's what we're not supposed to do. Like I say, we talk about provoking not our children to wrath. And that's, if we don't let our children live their life, raising them up in the admonition of the Lord so that they can freely live their life to the fullest extent that what God wants them to live, we are a stumbling block. And we ought to know what the Bible says about us being a stumbling block. That makes our life short. We can't be a stumbling block to our children. That's not right. Like I said, we got a lot of angry people, angry parents, angry fathers that's not in the home, fathers that's beating on their wives, because they haven't taken care of themselves. They haven't healed the wounds of their own past trauma, things that they've had to deal with. Maybe they grew up and their father wasn't there, or maybe they grew up and they saw their father beating on their mother, or vice versa. Like I said, it's not gender specific. We just angry parents, and we trying to raise children. And if we're angry parents, we're going to provoke our children to anger, because anger is going to raise anger. You know, like I say, you can only get what you have. They have anger on the inside of them, so that's what they can give, is anger. We got to take time out to find out who we are, to study to show our own self-approve, to make sure we got our own lot in life, make sure that we're not living generational curses or things of our ancestors or anything. Make sure that nothing's being placed on us that we shouldn't be living. Make sure we're living free, that we're not oppressed by our past, or like I say, generational curses, or we're not oppressed by anybody that, you know, is in our life, that we're not allowing anybody in our life to oppress us, that we feel free. You know, when we get up every morning, we feel free to do what we want to do. We don't feel obligated or made to do something that we don't want to do. So if we are allowing somebody to control us, then that's what we're bleeding onto our children, and that's provoking them to anger. You know, they feel like they in bondage, in some type of captivity, shackled in chains, so therefore they're going to act and respond in a certain way. So in order to provoke freedom, we have to be free. We have to know what it is. Like I say, it's not good to let anybody control or manipulate you. And we are not to control and manipulate our children. We are nobody's slave, and they are not created to be our slave. God didn't give them to us for that. He just used us as a portal, as a vessel, to get them on earth, to do his will. And if we're not allowing them and raising them up in the admonition of him to learn to do his will, then we are hindering, and we are not going to hear, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." We raising up our own kingdom and our own slaves to serve us, when we're supposed to be raising them up to serve God. The sexual abuse, the pedophilia, all of that is provoking our children to anger. And if we find ourselves doing that, we need to repent. Those who do that need to repent, because that is against God. And you're not going to make it in doing stuff like that. I'm not saying it's not it's an unforgivable sin, because there's only one sin that's not forgivable, and that's blasphemy of the Holy Ghost. But I suggest you make it quick. He said, quick to forgive, quick to repent, because no man knows the day nor the hour, and you're not guaranteed the next breath. And I would not provoke a child or do some type of abuse of any kind to a child. After you learn or you hear the word, it's woe to those who know. So I would take it wholeheartedly and hold it close to my heart that you don't abuse anybody. You don't talk to people crazy. You don't treat people less than. That's just an individual that don't have enough vocabulary or enough communication skills to be able to get their point across without showing their behind. And we don't have to stand there and take that. Nobody does. God didn't create us to be like that. Just because they want to treat you like an animal don't mean you're an animal. They're the ones acting like an animal. And you have free will to walk away. Don't let nobody talk to you crazy. Don't receive somebody else's craziness just because that's the way they feel in the moment for you. Walk away. Show them that you are better than that. You don't believe in that. And you leave them to their own devices. You leave them to their own self. There are a lot of unsatisfied people in this world. And because they're unsatisfied, they want to take it out on you. They want to take it out on your children. They take it out on their children. I'm just going to say, because of the brokenness, because of people, how they act and how they do, that's why I'm happy being by myself. Because I know me. I know that I'm only going to take so much. I know that I'm going to sit there and get quiet and let somebody holler and scream and let somebody call me out of my name or whatever. Because number one, when they talk to you that way, they ain't got no respect for you. Look at the ones that talk to certain people a certain way. Look at the ones that they have respect for, but then they come and talk to you a certain way. They don't have no respect for you, but they got respect for other people. You know, they respect a person, and I don't like nobody that's respect a person. I don't like nobody to treat me any old kind of way just because they feel like they can do it or they can use me because I'm quiet. I'm quiet for a reason, because I know me. I don't want to step back into what I came out of. And when you have people that are angry because life ain't going the way they want it to go or the way they think it should go, or maybe they can't get you to operate and do or slave for them the way they think you ought to slave for them, they want to do that. They want to treat you like that. You have the power of choice. You can walk away. Just because they unsatisfied in their life don't mean you got to be unsatisfied in yours. Go be satisfied. Don't accept that. That's not love. I don't care if it's friend or foe. That's not love. That's just an individual that's dealing with their own hurts and they can't even figure it out for themselves. They can't. They haven't healed. They haven't dealt with their own brokenness, and they're using you as an emotional punching bag. That's not good. I refuse to be an emotional punching bag for anybody. So if I don't treat you with disrespect, I don't expect nobody to treat me with disrespect. And once you are at that moment where you feel like you can disrespect me, I'm done. Because I don't do anybody else like that. That's not how I roll. And I roll that way because I don't want nobody to treat me like that. So if I don't want to be treated like that, why would I treat somebody else like that? We got to be able to receive. Like I was saying, there was that young lady who was emotionally unavailable. She had everything she needed, all the love, everything. God had supplied her with all her needs, all the love she needed. And the only thing that was keeping her out or keeping her from experiencing it was the fact that she didn't know how to receive. She didn't know how to open up because so much had been taken away from her. She was so guarded. She had her guard up. And like I say, a closed fist. As she began to start opening up, the floodgates opened up. She began to feel, she began to cry. And she began to start to feel human again. And she had her breakthrough. So make sure that we are able to receive. We so used to people taking from us. We so used to people for us giving to other people, and they not giving to us, or maybe they're giving to us, but we're not receiving because we don't know how to receive. So we running around here with empty cups, trying to give something that we don't have, and that's not gonna work. An empty cup can't feed nobody, not even the cup itself. So we got to make sure. A lot of us are afraid to be vulnerable, not able to be vulnerable around people. If you are in a space with people or individuals that you don't feel comfortable being vulnerable, maybe that ain't the space or the atmosphere that you need to be in. Because you need to be, wherever you are, you need to feel free to do and be who you are. If you feel like you got to put on a hat or you got to put on a certain face in the company that you keep and it's not healthy for you, then maybe you need to find some other company. Maybe that, you just don't feel comfortable in that company. You need to be around people that you feel comfortable with. We were talking about birds of a feather flock together the other day. If you are amongst a flock of birds where you don't feel comfortable to be who you are, maybe you around a flock of chickens and you a pigeon, and you don't feel comfortable being a pigeon around them chickens because you can't do everything that you want to do because you stand out, you look odd, or maybe they trying to get you to be a chicken and you're not. You need to go find you another flock of birds. You need to go find you a flock of chickens or a flock of birds that you want to be like. I'm the type of person, I said this to the group, I'm the type of person, I'm the chicken in amongst a flock of eagles, because I want to be around some people that can show me how to get to higher heights, that's got wisdom, that can teach me something. I don't mind standing out looking different, as long as I can learn or glean from that group, that atmosphere that I'm in, and better myself. Because I'm a loner anyway, so I'll be alone and go hang out with whoever, and as long as I'm learning something, I'm good. When I stop learning something, I get bored and it's time to go. I'm happy in what I do, but I'm getting kind of burnt out because the energy is not the same. And where it used to be, a team effort, now it's not. It's like a kick and scream to go, because it's not the same energy. I'm passionate about what I do. I was in school for it for a long time, and I'm glad I'm here, but I don't have the same energy. So sometimes you got to change the atmosphere. Change. Maybe that energy has run its course. Maybe that season has changed, and you need to go find another atmosphere or something, where you can be motivated, passionate or whatever. When you're dealing with a lot of stuff, a lot of stress and struggle, and just trying to get to a place, it burns you out. You burnt out before you even get to the place. And if you can't live comfortable at the same time, you really get burnt out. So you'd rather go be somewhere where you got to deal with whatever you got to deal with so you can be comfortable. Because it's not good to be teaching others how to be comfortable and you're not comfortable yourself. So that's an infidel. That's an oxymoron. That's trying to, like I say, trying to feed somebody out of an empty cup. So provoking not your children to wrath. What are we going through in our life that we're bleeding on to our children? That, causing attitudes in our children. What are our children receiving from us? Are we bonding with them? Are we spending time at the table? That fellowship, that dinner? Are we listening to them, pouring into them? Some of them just want to vent. Some of them just want us to hear them, hear their story, hear their day. Some of them like listening. Some of them don't act like it, but they do. But they have an attitude because they feel like, oh, they ain't got time for me or whatever. But they sitting over there eavesdropping. I know that because my children, they act like they don't listen, but I know, and I watch their movement and their behavior, they doing exactly what they heard me say. So, are we bleeding on our children? Are we angry? Are we provoking our children to wrath? Are we committing abuse to our children? Verbal, emotional, physical, sexual? Are we abusing our children? We're not supposed to provoke them to wrath. We're raising up angry individuals if we're doing anything like that to them. We're creating social anxieties in them. We need to heal ourselves. Everybody should take a moment to heal themselves, to make sure they're good. Nobody should want to go through life full of hurt and pain, self-medicating, because it's keeping the real relationships away from you. How you spew out on everybody, the one that's for you is looking, and you ain't never gonna know it, because they not coming to you in your brokenness. I do it intentionally because I have social anxieties. I speak in such a way to where I repel people on purpose because I don't want to deal with certain individuals. I don't want to deal with certain things. I like my refuge in my house. I'm not going to say I'm going to be this way always, but I don't want to have to come home to hell every day. I don't want to have to come home to being manipulated or controlled or dictated to or used. So I'll say things that will turn people's mind the other way because I'm comfortable in my skin. So that's creating a shield around me that keeps me in my bubble, and it's where I feel safe. But I'm able to talk to people and counsel them because I know, those who want love, and I know how to maneuver things and everything. It's just not what I want. I don't want a man to come in here. First of all, I don't want no female because it's the abomination of God. So, and I know I don't want no man to come in here and dictate and, because I understand I have to submit. I understand. I ain't got to submit to nobody but God in here right now. So, I don't want to submit to somebody that's going to be hollering, yelling, and screaming. That's in any area of my life. I don't submit to nobody, nowhere, that's going to holler, yell, and scream. If that's all that's going to happen, it's time. That's my release. It's time to go. If I can't be treated with the same respect that I give, I'm just not going to do it. I'm certainly not going to come home to that and do it every day in my house. I have to deal with enough of that out there in the world, working and all this kind of stuff, in the grocery store, people, dealing with, social injustices, and, I see all kind of things. This is my refuge. I don't have to deal with none of that here. All I have here is me. And I raise her in a way to where she's raised in the admonition of the Lord. She understands that I don't want that, but she's grown enough to have what she wants. She has her boyfriend, and, we talk, and I, teach her, but that's not what I want. Just because it's not what I want, don't mean I got to keep it from her. She got to learn. Maybe that's what God wants for her. Right now, I'm good. I've had my children, raised my children. I'm good. So just because I want to be good like this doesn't mean I got to provoke my daughter to be angry because she wants to be in a relationship. I'm not going to be bitter and keep her out of a relationship. Some people can be by themselves and be happy and have joy because I don't have to wake up every day to somebody that's manipulating or using me or trying to take something from me. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being by yourself. Young lady the other day said, like this internal clock. People think you're supposed to be married or you're supposed to be X, Y, and Z at this stage of life. Don't let nobody put you in a box like that. You are exactly where you're supposed to be in life if that's where you want to be. Just because you ain't got no man or no wife, don't let nobody put that on you. You were created in this world by yourself. You came into this world by yourself. Unless you were a Siamese twin where you was joined, locked together. Even identical twins came in by themselves. They just came in at the same space of time, maybe a few minutes apart, but they still are individual. They may just look alike. Don't let nobody put a lifestyle or hell on you that you don't want. So what? You 30 years old, maybe you haven't had your first child. If God wants you to have a child, you'll have it. Sarah was 99. Maybe you don't want children. Don't let nobody pressure you into a lifestyle or a life that you don't want. Social anxieties or whatever, as long as they healthy for you, as long as they ain't not keeping you isolating. I get up and I go out when I want to go out or whatever. But like I say, when I get tired of dealing with, I come home. And this is my refuge. I don't have to deal with nobody here. Especially, man trying to control me, dictate to me. When you talk about narcissists, they ain't going to let you have too much money. Because they don't want you to have enough money to leave them. They don't want you to have enough money to run off and, they jealous or whatever. So you have this money and you doing what you want to do, buying what you want to buy. They don't know what they want. So they upset with you because you living the life of Riley that you want to live. And they never figured out for themselves what life they want to live. So you got a lot of jealous people in this world. And it's based off of they don't know themselves. They looking for you and they can't get what they need out of looking at you. Because what they need to do is look within inside themselves. The one person that we hardly ever get to meet is ourselves. We want to run around and meet everybody else. We know what somebody's favorite color is. We know what somebody's favorite meal is. We know more about other people than we know about ourselves, generally. The average person. We never take time to sit and find out about ourselves. I'm so comfortable in me. I'm so comfortable in my skin because I know me. I know what triggers me. I know what I can deal with, what I can't deal with. I've done the healing. I've done the work. I'm not bleeding on my children or anybody else in my life. Make sure you're not bleeding on anybody else. Make sure you're not provoking your children to anger, that you're not creating a lifestyle or a personality for them that is toxic. Make sure you're raising them up in the admonition of the Lord. I say, I don't want this to be too long. That's going to be it for today because like I said, there's so much in this. This could be a whole nother hour, but People provoke their children to wrath because they're not healed on the inside. They're self-medicating. They're trying to live their life vicariously through their children. And maybe their children don't want that life that they're trying to live. It's like your son is shaped like a football player. So therefore you go out there and train him and buy the football gear and you put him on the football team and everything, and your son don't even like football. You're trying to create him to be something that he's not. Something that he don't even want to do. That he don't even want to live. So at the end of the day, you create an individual that never want to ever look at another football again in their life. Instead of allowing them to be who God created them to be. Which means you got to see God. You got to see what God says about your children. You got to see what God says about you. Stop running around self-medicating. Having attitudes and disrespecting people. Because you're going to disrespect the very one that's supposed to have your gift. With the fish with the coin in the mouth. That God uses as a vessel to bless you. You keep coming at people because you're not hurt. You're not healed. You run people off. Like I say things intentionally because I keep myself in my bubble because I know me. I know my triggers. I know what I'm going to put up with and I know what I'm not going to put up with. I'm 54 years old now. And I'm set in my ways. And if I can't have no peace, I'm going to make my peace. I'm going to create my peace. I don't deal with people that are double-minded, that, they unstable. That's James, Book of James. They unstable. I don't deal with unstable people because I'm being tossed to and fro. I need to be stable. I need commitment. And like I said, if I can't find that in a person, I don't deal with them very long. Because I know it's always going to be one toss to the next. Because they going to and fro. They don't know whether they coming or going. And I'm not going to be drugged down that road. I'm not going to have my peace disturbed. Like I said, God knows how to provide the one or catch my attention with the one if that's what he want me to do. But the only way you can get to this place in yourself is knowing what's in your cup. Knowing what's in you. I'm content in me. I don't have to self-medicate. In me. If I have a glass of wine or a drink, it's because I choose to. Not because I'm trying to cover something up or I'm trying to heal a hurt or whatever. Normally I have it to get, because it helps me sleep. I sleep deep. I sleep all day. Normally I have a glass of wine or something on Friday night and sleep in on Saturday and catch my rest. But now I got somebody trying to commandeer my Saturday. When you know somebody and you love somebody, you don't do things outside the box. You don't make them be uncomfortable. You work along with them. So when I don't have my Saturdays, I feel like I don't have a whole day off for the whole week. And yeah, it raises my attitude. That's why I get more quiet. I get real quiet because I'll take somebody's head off. I'll snap somebody's head off. My attitude. So, I already know that that's coming. Or the mind will be changed and I'm already ready. And it may never come to pass. And if it don't come to pass, that done took up my whole Saturday anyway because I couldn't feel comfortable and free to do what I wanted to do on my day. That's how you have control or manipulation. When you allow people to control or manipulate your time. I could have said no, but there's some things I want to get done. I want to see, some things I need to see if it's done ran its course. So I get quiet. And I just start listening to God. I just start rocking. Because I know me. There's power in knowing who you are. When you know who you are, you know how to perform and how to handle people. You wouldn't provoke your children to wrath because you know you. Like I say, I'm not going to stay on here for a whole long list of time because it takes so long for it to upload. But pay attention. I want y'all to be encouraged. Pay attention to how you're treating the people around you. Pay attention to how you're treating your loved ones. If your attitude around your loved ones. Pay attention to how they're treating you. Make sure that you're not exhibiting some hurt or pain on the inside of you and taking it out on them. Because you may take it out on them and you may lose them. They may walk. We got families, estranged families that ain't talked to their loved ones. Brothers and fathers and sons that ain't talked to each other in years. Because they got this attitude or this anger, this hurt, that they dealing with on the inside of them, this unforgiveness or whatever. When you provoke your children to wrath, you raise angry children. You raise children who become angry adults. And it just really messes up the whole, everything in their life. Because until they deal with that and fix that, everything is always going to come back to that. Like I say, this could be a whole nother hour. But anyway, like I say, be encouraged. Make sure you're walking in the admonition of the Lord. In spiritual warfare, your spiritual warfare, for a lot of us, that's where it begins, is at home. Making sure that we are good and we not bleeding on everybody else. Bleeding on everybody else is not creating a bubble for yourself. I specifically create a bubble for myself because I know I'm not ready to deal with anybody else right now. Like I said, I'm set in my ways. So I know how to manage my children. I know how to help them live the life that they want to live. But that don't mean that I have to do what they want to do. Now some say I should be more of a grandma, but I'm a domesticated grandma. I wasn't created to be a built-in babysitter. I'm teaching my children to raise their children just like I raised them. I can visit, but I don't want to get into the habit of just rocking my grandchildren all the time. I can't live the lifestyle that I live rocking my grandchildren all the time. My grandchildren don't need to know me more than they know their parents. When you know your boundaries, when you know who you are, that's when you can live freely. When you know what you're going to put up with and what you're not going to put up with, that's when you can live freely. You don't have to be controlled or manipulated by anybody just because they need to control you or need you in their life to do whatever they want, benefits them. If it's not benefiting you, I wouldn't be there. Don't raise angry children. And the way not to raise angry children is you got to figure out how not to be angry yourself. Like I say, next week I know we're going to be talking about being servants. That's verse 5. That might be a whole session itself too. Because being a servant ain't being a slave. And love is in servitude. Some of us ain't being servants. We ain't serving each other. We sitting off as islands. We ain't doing nothing for each other. Or we're manipulating, trying to get our way out of each other. You know, it might go into number 6, you know, talking about men pleasers and stuff like that. But like I say, we'll take that up next week. Until then, y'all stay encouraged.